Welcome to the Spectator's Creepy Tales. This is part 2 to the top 4 encounters with evil. Let the silence fill your abode. Now open your eyes. Tale 1. Devin was the love of my life until I discovered that he had strange habits. The first time that I came over to his apartment, my experience was odd. I felt like I was being watched, and it was like the house spoke to me. The place was very spooky, and he had strange statues and artifacts displayed in his living room. He claimed that he studied archaeology and anthropology, and that he is a collector as well. I believed him and I questioned him no more. It seemed like the entire apartment was a gateway to something supernaturally bad. I asked him about religion, and he said that he was a non-traditional Christian. I didn't understand, and he tried to explain to me. However, I thought that maybe he was into something similar to voodoo. I couldn't prove it, but there was something eerie about my boyfriend. I know that he affiliated with gang members who used witchcraft to deal with their enemies. Yet he was weird. During the day he was brown-skinned, but at night his skin was lighter like a mulatto man. His eyes often changed from light brown to blue. The incident that made me want to question his ethics is when he first came over to my apartment. We had a date, and he was picking me up. I have a chihuahua named Dudley. When I opened the door to let Devin in, Dudley was in attack mode. He was growling and barking at my boyfriend. I made him go into my room because I could tell that Devin was not feeling my dog. I had to finish beating my face, so I suggested to Devin to sit down and watch television. When I went back to my room, I realized that Dudley had gone back into the living room where my date was sitting. I put down my makeup brush with the sole intention of bringing Dudley back into my room. For some reason I felt that I should first see how Devin was going to deal with my dog. I stepped back and peeked around the corner. To my surprise, my boyfriend picked up my barking dog, looked into his eyes and said something in another language. Then he placed my dog back onto the couch. Dudley jumped down and ran from the living room and back into my room. When I went back into the room, my Dudley was in the corner shaking like he had just seen a ghost. I tried to get my dog and calm him, but he refused to leave the corner. Then I thought about how my grandmother liked playing gospel music in the house. I turned on my radio and found a gospel station. Dudley did not come out of the corner immediately, but he calmed down. He fell asleep. However, my boyfriend was edgy. He stood in the hallway and asked me how soon I would be ready. Not wanting to frighten Dudley again, I hurried up and left with my date. As time progressed, I discovered that Devin was cheating on me. I broke up with him, but he didn't take it very well. I don't know. I guess he felt that I should have stayed with him despite the fact that he had 2 women pregnant. Another woman, who was very psychotic, by the name of Joy, began to harass me. She said that I was messing with her man. Ghetto, right? Devin told me that he had no dealings with this woman, but I found out that he did. His homeboy, Renaud, who he trusted a lot, mentioned that Devin had a one-night stand with Joy. Ever since then she became a fatal attraction. I went and purchased a gun and was licensed. I also purchased a stun gun. I wasn't taking any chances with her. I was going to protect myself by any means necessary. When I had ended the relationship with Devin, I began to have nightmares. To add insult to injury, I was having haunting experiences in my apartment. Someone will call my name and then laugh. My phone will ring every morning at 12 midnight and 3 a.m. No one will say anything, and I will just hear heavy breathing. Also at times, I could hear knocking on my door or window. When I opened my door, no one was there. In regard to my windows, I'd pull back my curtains and no one was there as well. However, there was a handprint on my window. I don't know how that was possible, and my apartment was on the 2nd floor. One night I awakened to dark figures in my room, and they were calling out to me to join them. I was so scared that I yelled Jesus, and they disappeared. Another night I heard something moving around in my pantry room near the kitchen. When I opened the door, I saw a figure kneeling down and facing the wall. I grabbed Dudley and ran downstairs. I didn't know what to do. I felt that things were getting out of hand. I called my aunt, who is a pastor. She came over and blessed my place. While she was there, the kitchen chairs moved, and the cabinets swung open on their own too. I heard the sound as if someone or something was walking around in my apartment. My aunt said that she saw something, but when she prayed, it left. She refused to tell me what she saw, but she assured me that I was safe. My aunt told me that whenever I hear knocking on a window or a door, don't open it. Unknowingly, I would have allowed the evil spirit to enter my home. I took heed, but for some reason I think that prayer made my situation worse. Rats and roaches were getting into my apartment. I called an exterminator. He said being that I lived on the second floor, he couldn't understand why I was having such a problem with roaches and rodents and the other tenants weren't. He saw that I had a very clean apartment, and this was puzzling to him. Next, I began to have very bad headaches which caused my eyes to be red. I had an appointment with my primary care doctor. He couldn't find the cause of my problem and referred me to an ophthalmologist. At that office visit, the doctor could not determine the reason for my red eyes. He only gave me a prescription for eye drops. Aware that I was having migraine headaches, he referred me to a neurologist. However, that particular specialist could not determine why I was having headaches, but he prescribed a medication. I was then referred to an allergist. He examined me and performed various tests. He said that he couldn't find anything wrong with me besides hay fever, my allergy to dust, and bee stings. In that space of time, I had seen several doctors for my symptoms and none of them knew the causative agent responsible for my illness. Of course, I had a very clean apartment, and I am a germ-phobic person, but this was an awful experience. I decided that it was time that I move. I started packing my things. I was going to give my plants to my aunt, but upon an eerie discovery I decided not to give the plants to anyone. While watering my plants which were on the balcony, I found a wooden skeleton head hidden within my plants. Embedded inside the head of the skeleton was a knife. My name was on the forehead of the skeleton. I had had enough. I was tired of feeling like I was cursed. I was determined that I was not going to be plagued for the rest of my life. I was not going to give in. I was not going crazy, and I wasn't going to be scared anymore. I reneged on moving. I stayed in my apartment. I placed my plants in the trash and cleaned the floors with soapy water and bleach. I repented and asked the Lord to help me. I didn't want to be vexed anymore. I used holy oil to anoint myself and my apartment. As I walked through each room of my apartment, I quoted Psalm 23 and Psalm 91. My prayer was not that the curse returned to the person who sent it. My aunt said that sending a curse back to a person was not the will of God. Therefore, I prayed that the Lord would deal with them according to his will. I know that it is important to pray in the will of the Lord as well in order to get action. Later, I saw on the news that my ex-boyfriend was arrested for assault and battery, drug trafficking and attempted murder. His crazy psychotic girlfriend, Joy, and Devin had an argument. He almost unalived her. She got away and later pressed charges. I ran into her one day in the supermarket. She came over and apologized to me. She said she didn't know why she acted so aggressively towards me. She explained that that was not her character, and she felt that she was being controlled by someone or something. She told me that Devin played the both of us. He was seeing both of us at the same time. He was actually engaged to Joy. She heard that he had 2 women pregnant, and she thought that I was one of them. She was very distraught, and she finally confronted him when she saw him with another woman. Apparently, this woman was another one of his baby mamas. She said that Devon got mad and tried to fight her. He told her that a woman should never confront a man when he is with his side piece. He left her with injuries and bruises that were still showing. I was wondering who could have placed a curse on me. At first, I thought that she was the one causing the chaos in my apartment. However, she told me some things that was very alarming. She assured me that she was not responsible for what was going on in my apartment. She was experiencing similar activity too. Joy told me that Devon was the priest of an ancient cult. They specialized in witchcraft, ritualistic sacrifices, and murder. She said that Devon and his crew had a way of doing things to people. The curse would hinder a doctor or coroner from determining the causes of illness or death. That's when she made the decision to move. She was on her way out of town when she was passing the supermarket and saw me. She wanted to make amends before she left for good. She said that if she didn't leave, she would have to contend with his followers. We exchanged phone numbers, and I told her to call me as soon as she got to her destination. Later that night, I received a call from a hospital a couple of counties away. I was told by a nurse that Joy listed me as the next of kin. She informed me that she had been in a car accident. I didn't know what to think. I immediately got dressed and drove all the way to that hospital. I prayed while I was driving there. When I arrived at the hospital, I found that Joy was moved out of intensive care into a room. Being that she listed me as a relative, I was able to go into her room. She opened her eyes and smiled when she saw me enter the room. I walked over to her and held her hand. I looked down at her and she looked helpless. Her face was bruised, she had a broken arm and leg, and she had a neck brace. I didn't want her to talk, but she insisted on speaking. She told me that while she was on the road, Devon appeared in her car. He told her that he was going to get her for betraying him. Next thing she noticed that Devon smiled and disappeared. Then someone in a black car ran her off the road. Next, two of his goons got out of the car that hit her. They came over to her car and attacked her, and a woman cut her face. When they heard an old woman scream, they ran away. I was astonished to find out all of the things that happened to her. I really felt sorry for Joy. She was trying to put the past behind her. Yet Devon was mad that he was arrested. He was not released from jail, but he showed up in her car. Now that is a ruler of darkness of this age that the Bible mentions. I knew that I had to move. I had already cut off all ties with him, but I don't know what awaited me. On the way home I was caught in a rainstorm. I had to pray to make it home to safety. When I returned home, my place had been ransacked. I knew that my life was in danger. I didn't touch anything, but I called the police. My neighbors who were dog-sitting Dudley for me thought that the men that were in my apartment was helping me move. They said that the men left without nothing. To my surprise, nothing was removed, but was something placed in there? The police took fingerprints and photographed everything. However, there was nothing much they could do. My neighbors were unable to give a definite description of the intruders. I stayed up all night and repacked my things. I was glad to leave. I hired a moving company to help me. I moved to the county where Joy was hospitalized. I didn't unpack because I was going to move as far away as I could. I wanted to wait until Joy was released from the hospital. We both were in danger, and we had to get out of Devon's clutches. When Joy was released from the hospital, we moved to California. I found that she had no family. When she was a child, she was moved from foster home to foster home. As an adult, she depended on Devon to start a family with her. Sadly, he played on that. He knew that she had nobody to turn to. I must say that we are survivors. Oh, yes, Dudley is fine too. Occasionally, he would bark when the lights were off, and I had to pray and anoint my home. Joy is on a long way to recovery. She is still recovering from a spinal cord injury, Crohn's disease, and neuropathy. She is in a wheelchair, but she is glad to be away from Florida. Oh, yes. Devin was released from jail because Joy was too afraid to press charges any further, or she would have to appear in court. She wanted to avoid him at any cost, therefore those charges were dropped. In regard to his other case involving murder, drug trafficking and assault, all evidence was lost or tampered with. Therefore, the judge dismissed the cases. Yet I heard that people is calling him crazy. Devin was unable to find Joy and that made him angry. Yet the supernatural events that he was able to control against his enemies stopped his relentless pursuit of us. Later, Devin became paranoid and was saying that someone dressed in black was following him. He said that this person is everywhere he goes. Now he can't sleep or cope in any kind of way. I certainly know that goodness and mercy is not following him. He don't want no lights off in his house. A high light bill, right? The Bible states that evil will slay the wicked and they that hate the righteous shall be desolate, Psalm 34 verse 21. I now warn anyone to be careful of who they align themselves with. Women and men, when you are dating, if your boyfriend or girlfriend is acting weird, take notice. Go with that gut feeling. Don't overlook things because it will hurt you in the long run. Take care, everyone.
Tale 2. I was a single mother of 3 when I met Derek. We started dating and he asked me to move to the small town where he resided. I consented and we moved into his family house. It was just Derek, my children, and me. The house was a 3-bedroom and 1-bath brick home. Being a city girl, I really had to adjust to living in a country town. I worked at a local fast food restaurant as a cashier. I started liking the way things were going. Then one night while everyone were asleep, I awakened to the sound of the floor creaking. Derek and I were in bed, and I knew that the children were asleep. Absolutely. So, I turned around and tried to sleep when I thought that I saw a lady in my room. I looked again, but nothing was there. So I assumed that it was just a figment of my imagination. I fell asleep and I had a nightmare. In this dream, I was in bed, and everyone were asleep except me. I laid in bed just thinking about how I had planned out my day. Then I heard a noise. It was the sound of a hospital stretcher being pushed down the hallway. Suddenly, the sound ended at my door. Next, the bedroom door swung open, and a little thin woman stood in the doorway. She looked over at the bed and grimaced. To give an accurate description of her would cause me to fully recall what happened. However, this elderly woman was dark-skinned, and her facial characteristics displayed menacing features. Her eyes were dark, and her hair was in disarray. I looked over at my boyfriend, and for some reason he was in a deep sleep. I looked back at the door and the woman was still there and gazing at me. Apparently, she saw me as an intruder. Then she said,
"Get out of my house."
I screamed and awakened Derek. I was in a cold sweat and my heart was racing. Yet I was glad to be out of that dream. The woman scared me to the point that I was trembling. Derek asked what scared me. Then he said,
"It must have been some kind of nightmare. You need to calm down. You scared me the way you just jumped up like somebody was chasing you."
I felt that he was being insensitive. What I experienced was very scary. If he would have been able to witness what I dreamed, Derek would have been terrified too. I related how I felt about his inconsiderate comments. People who have nightmares have various reactions because he or she is trying to get away from who or what is attempting to harm them. Really, Derek? You don't say. Yeah, I had a nightmare. It started with me hearing the sound of a hospital stretcher coming down the hall. Then the door opened and a lady stood in the doorway. She looked at me and said, "Get out of my house." She scared me. That lady meant what she said. Did someone live here before we moved in?
Derek insisted that there was nothing to worry about. He assured me that my dream was probably a random nightmare.
Just family, but that sounds like Mama. Don't worry about it. It could just be a bad spirit. Mama's been gone for a long time. Besides, it was just a nightmare.
I'm not too sure of that. That dream was intense and it seemed so real.
Everything is going to be fine. You probably just saw a scary movie or something and had a nightmare.
No, that's not it.
Now I'm mad. I don't like the fact that he is trying to act like I had a nightmare because of a horror movie.
Pump the brakes. I don't watch scary movies, Derek. Are you trying to be funny like I'm cray-cray?
Derek saw that he made me upset. I was serious about my nightmare and I needed comfort. I didn't need his sarcasm. So he replied,
No, Chelsea. I was just saying that you don't have anything to worry about. It was just a nightmare. Don't sweat it.
As time progressed, I began to think that someone was in the house with me. One day, while the children were in school, I heard the sound of that stretcher again. This time it was not a dream. This was really happening. Derek's mother was in the house, and she wanted to make her presence known to me. I kept telling Derek about what I was experiencing, but he acted as if I was overreacting. Soon I dismissed the thought that it was my boyfriend's mother. Yet I started wondering if someone died in the house. Of course, I wasn't going to ask Derek. He was already acting like a jerk. One day Derek's brother Robert came over. He was sitting down talking to Derek and me and showing photos from the family album. Suddenly, I was shown a picture of their mother. To my astonishment, it was the woman that was appearing to me and telling me to get out of her house. The way she looked in the picture was like she was looking right at me. The fear returned. I had to do something, for this lady was terrifying me. When Robert left, I told Derek that the woman in the photo was the woman who was telling me to get out of her house. He was surprised and finally he believed me. Later that night, I heard the sound again of the stretcher coming down the hallway. I got out of bed to see if Derek or the children left any of the doors unlocked. When I was walking back to the kitchen, I saw Derek's mother. She said to me,
Didn't I tell you to get out of my house? You don't listen. Stay right there. I got something for you.
She came after me until I reached the room. I jumped into the bed with Derek. She stood in the doorway for a minute, looked at me, and then walked away. That was it. I could not take it no more. The next day I talked to a woman who owned a 3-bedroom house. I explained to her everything that I was going through. She believed me and encouraged me. Then she consented and allowed me to move in that same day. I left Derek's mother's house along with my children. Derek followed because he knew that I was not going back to his mother's house. However, after moving, I never had any more dreams about his mother. I don't hear the sound of the stretcher in the hallway either. She got her wish. I guess she didn't want a Georgia woman in her house. Years later, family members have been in and out of that house. Eventually, Derek and I broke up. My children and I moved back to Savannah. I always lived in Georgia, but this incident occurred in Southeast South Carolina. I am glad that I moved, and I will never return even to that town to live. Sweet dreams.
Don't come back to my house.
Tale 3. Tonight's story was submitted by Kay Nesbitt, and it is entitled, Daddy Saw It in the Woods. This account is from a female's perspective regarding what happened to her father one night. Savannah, Georgia is a southern city known for the elaborate and historical homes, parks, and businesses. Besides a prestigious school of arts, it is important to know that an interstate was erected over the graves of slaves and those lost to war, murder, and diseases. Most people attribute hauntings to the historic district of this city. However, just about every neighborhood in Savannah has had its share of strange phenomena such as haunted houses, eerie woods, dark roads, and communities where there is recurring violence. It is a safe assumption that the entire city was constructed over old cemeteries or hidden graves. There have been several stories that I've heard from family members, or I was just in the presence of someone who mentioned the legend of the pig lady that haunts a local cemetery, the graveyard dogs emerging from that same graveyard, and the strange lady of the 37th Street connector to Interstate 16. Last and certainly not least, the tall man of the woods was talked about too. Some of these stories have proven to be true. Well, this story occurred around the late 1950s in Savannah, Georgia. I am convinced that the tall man has been seen before the internet and even televisions were in homes. My mother told me that they did not have a television when she was visiting her grandmother in Riceboro, Georgia, or even at home with her father in Savannah. So, they listened to stories on the radio. Mystery dramas such as The Creaking Door, The Shadow Knows, and including the soap opera Stella Dallas were among stories that were not viewed on television by most African Americans. Most of these mysteries were heard by radio broadcast. Therefore, my parents did not know anything about the eerie encounters with strange creatures that we know of today. Most of the streets back then were dirt roads. There were no streetlights, so darkness invaded the ways to various destinations. My father said that at times when he walked through the woods at night, after leaving to see my mother, he would hear all kinds of strange noises. Some animal sounds echoed to make their presence known. Other clatters were a mystery. My father sometimes found himself running through the woods to get back on the main road. There was something in that area, but he was not curious to discover the identity of it. Well, this occurred when my parents were courting. Of course, we call it dating now. Fortunately, at this time my mother had a television, and they were watching a movie when my father yelled. My mother became frightened for she saw how my father stared at the window of her small apartment. Her brave boyfriend could barely utter a word to explain what he saw. Not wanting to go near the window, my mother asked him what scared him so. My father pointed to the window and said that he saw a very tall man bending and looking through the window at them. He described the man as being frightening in appearance with the most malevolent grin. My dad was apprehensive about going anywhere near that window. However, how was they to know if something was actually out there? Mom and Dad wrestle with the idea of whether they should go outside or just look through the window to see if the stranger was still outside. With fear and trepidation, both my mom and Dad walked over to the window, but they saw nothing. Some of her neighbors heard what my father said, and they chose to go outside to see if someone was out there. They saw no one, and there were no tracks to indicate that a man or anyone was looking through the window. Annoyed at the time, my father did not want no one to undermine him by indicating that it was just a figment of his imagination. He dispelled that logic by declaring to everyone by confessing,
I know what I saw.
My dad said that this thing had menacing eyes as if it could discern your entire being. He further said that he got goosebumps just describing the features of this strange being that somehow disappeared from the window upon him screaming. It was rather late, and my mother was unable to reach my dad's cousin. Unfortunately, Daddy had no choice but to walk through those woods. My mother felt so bad for him. She knew that he was trying to impress her, but he was afraid. He was not aware if that thing had moved on or was still in the woods. He kissed my mother goodnight and began his journey down the road where no streetlights existed. Sometimes fear can overpower your rational thinking. Yet I believed my father when he said that the woods became alive when he entered. He said that he heard an owl, frogs, and some crickets. He even heard the howling sounds of either a feral dog or a wolf. As he walked further in, he heard sounds unfamiliar to him. He knew that he was not alone. These were not noises of an animal nature. He had to keep it moving and get through the woods. Then he began to hear an unusual sound that echoed through the wooded area. Something was in the woods, and it knew that my father was there too. Turning around every now and then, he saw no one. Yet he felt as if he was being watched, or worse, followed. Whatever was out there was in proximity, practically behind him. Then the woods became eerily quiet. My dad said that he began to hear the strangest sounds that emanated through the woods. That thing that he saw in the window was still out there. It was watching, and possibly tracking him. It waited for him to enter those woods. Then the woods became alive again. Suddenly, a pulsating sound radiated through the area. My father had no idea regarding the source of the strange sound. Yet he could sense his presence. Nature alone feared this being because the insects alerted him that something malevolent was present. A deer ran across his path as if it was running from the unknown. An owl echoed a warning sound that alerted my father that something unnatural has invaded the very nature of things. Then he heard the heavy footsteps of something creeping up behind him. He didn't look back for fear of what was approaching him. His life could possibly be in danger, and he had to do something. My dad made haste and ran through the woods. He heard the crunching of leaves behind him as if something or someone was chasing him. The nightly wind stirred, and it seemed like even the temperature grew colder. My father continued to run. He could not allow this thing to destroy him. He ran for what seemed like eternity. Never did it take this long to walk through those woods. That thing had done something to confuse my father in the direction he usually took. Yet my dad continues to run. His fear gave him the adrenaline to press on no matter what. Finally, he saw the main road ahead and he saw the lights of an approaching car. Frightened, my father ran out to the road just in time to spot the driver. Fortunately, it was one of the residents in the area who recognized him. The man offered my father a ride. My dad accepted the ride. Trust me, he was glad to be away from whatever was pursuing him. He was still scared, and he was panting. Running from the unknown was difficult because it can only be heard but not seen. The driver noticed that my father seemed uptight. So the neighbor asked,
"You alright, man? You look like you saw something back there."
My father did not want to tell the neighbor what occurred in those woods. He didn't want the man to think that he was crazy. So he gave him the best answer he could deduce.
I had a scare, but I'm alright now.
As the car drove away, the woods grew silent again. Something was watching, regretting losing its prey. My father telephoned my mother once he arrived home. He wanted to reassure her that he was all right. He was glad to be away from those spooky woods. It was unnerving to walk in that area, but my father told my mother that someone from the neighborhood recognized him and gave him a ride. He was rescued from danger. Mom was so glad that Dad was safe, yet she said she was unable to sleep that night. Could the strange man still be in the woods? Will he look through her window again? There were many strange occurrences that my mother experienced in that home. However, she never thought that the woods surrounding her place was haunted or harbored some unknown entity. This tall being was never seen again by my father or anyone. However, the experience was one that he never forgot. This incident did not hinder my father from visiting my mother. He was very brave. At times he came early so he could leave before dark. Other times he had a ride or would take alternate routes through the woods. Eventually, they were married and my mother moved out of that place. As Mother reflected on this story, I could still see the fear in her eyes. When I mentioned this story to my father, he said that he remembered that night fully well. He said that whatever it was looked like a very tall man with scary features. I don't know if there were any other residents in that area that encountered this strange creature. Nevertheless, this is a story that is an unknown mystery. I was told of this story by my mother when my parents moved me and my older siblings to that same neighborhood. My father called him the Tall Man, but we call him the Slender Man. If I were you, I would stay away from the woods at night. We have a new YouTube channel called File 13 Creepy Narratives. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe because in doing so, it will alert the algorithm that more people are liking these videos. Therefore, these stories will be viewed by others. File 13 is a selection of true stories and don't be surprised if your story is found among the creepy narratives. Thank you for watching.